Hey, it's Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics. I'm here with Greg Palast, who was the source behind this amazing movie that I saw the other night, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. And it's essentially it's kind of very serious, but also entertaining. There's cartoon animation and things like that. You just going through the country and spotlighting the latest tricks and illegal behavior Republicans, in this case, are doing around the country when it comes to election fraud. Just want to start because there's some terms in there that when people would hear, especially the mainstream media, wouldn't think it's sexy. But cross-check, for example.
But just a second. I have Rosario Dawson. If anyone doesn't think that's sexy, then they need a shrink.
Rosario and Shailene Woodley's in here, so.
And Shailene Woodley, and the very sexy Willie Nelson, and let's see who else. Ed Asner's pretty sexy as Santa Claus, and Bobby Kennedy, always hot, and Ice-T, and who else? I don't want to
Richard Belzer.
Richard Belzer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know it sounds, with given those names, that it's not a documentary. It is. It's actually a documentary. Yes, some people appear in my brain, but it's the story of the theft of the 2016 election before it happens. It's a very serious matter, but if you don't laugh through the first hour of the film, then you're just not. You just need all kinds of help, or we have to change your drugs.
And when you talk about the theft, because we're talking night of the first debate, obviously there was a lot of talk during the primaries on the Democratic side, but this movie spotlights some things people don't even know are happening that have been down the pipeline for years. Can you kind of talk about cross-check? Give examples. We know what happened in Kansas and other things.
Okay, I just, by the way, the story, for those who can't handle a film, you can read my story in Rolling Stone, the last issue. It's up on the Rolling Stone website, called The GOP's Stealth War on Voters. And not just any voters, it's voters of color. Now, a little background: in 2000, I'm the reporter who, for The Guardian, uncovered that George Bush won the presidency by having his brother remove tens of thousands of black voters from the voter rolls. So that's what chose our president in 2000. So that's important because 2016, there's a new variation, bigger, nastier, more complex. So I sniffed it out and uncovered it for Rolling Stone, and now put it in this film, which is a system called interstate crosscheck. Begins with Donald Trump saying that the election's rigged, and he should know because his buddies are rigging it. And here's what they're doing. Understand Trump's second half of his phrase. He says it's rigged because people are voting many, many times. People are voting multiple times. So you have basically what they're saying is black people and brown people and Asian Americans are voting many times. Now that's a federal crime, 5 years in the slammer. So why is he bringing this up? The answer is that the Republican secretaries of state, that is the little Catherine Harris's, the little voting officials that run elections in 30 states.
For people who don't know, Catherine Harris was the Florida Secretary of State, worked on Bush's campaign as, I think, Florida's chairperson, and essentially drove it home for him in 2000.
Right. Yeah, it was Catherine Harris who removed all those black people. Now you've got a bunch of a kind of lynch mob by laptop running out of the voting offices in 30 Republican states. What they're doing is they're removing voters that they are accusing of voting twice. Now, if someone votes twice, you should arrest them. You know, you rob a bank, they don't close your bank account, they arrest you, right? So why aren't they arresting these double voters? I wanted to know. Why, if you have all these double voters, and then I find out that their suspect list, you ready, is 7.2 million people on it. 7.2 million people suspected of voting twice or registering with intent to vote twice, a crime. And this massive crime wave. Who are these people? They would not give me the list. And so I'm an investigative reporter. If you know, Greg Palast is what I do. So as soon as they say confidential, I go get them. Our team, we got about 2 million of the suspect names. Analyzed them, didn't take much analysis, like people like Maria Isabel Hernandez, voting in Virginia, is supposed to be the same voter as Maria Cristina Hernandez, voting in Louisiana. Both both women named Maria Hernandez will lose their vote because they're accused of being the same voter voting twice. Doesn't matter if they have different middle names. 1 out of 4 names, that would be on their list, almost 2 million people, have a mismatched middle name, and yet they're on the list.
And also different birthdays, different
birthdays, junior, senior, father and son are considered one voter. And while they say they have social security numbers, and they do, they don't use them. If there's a mismatch, the documents say ignore the mismatches. So they are removing, now we know that Virginia admitted to me that they removed 41,000 accused double voters. North Carolina, so Virginia's a swing state. North Carolina and Ohio, the ultimate swing states. I know that Ohio has removed maybe 100,000 people accused of voting twice in Ohio. And in North Carolina, at least 35,000 will lose their vote before November, before this election.
And a lot of these people pretty much realize they can't vote the day of. Do they even get notices, anything like that?
They get a postcard. It doesn't say you're accused of a double voting. It just says it basically requires you to re-register. And these cards for poor people, homeless people, students who aren't around, they don't get the cards or they don't return the cards, then they're out. Now, who's on? The important thing is who's on this list. It's overwhelmingly Black people, Hispanics, and Asian Americans. Because the trick is they start by using common names. People who have, like Maria Hernandez. Now, they have different middle names. According to them, that's the same voter. And you would say, well, Maria Hernandez, that's a really common name. It's not common for a Republican. Jesse Jackson. James, 288 men named James Brown in Georgia alone are accused of voting in another state because they found 288 people in other states named James Brown that voted. Now, it doesn't matter that James Edward Brown voted in Georgia and James Thomas Brown voted in Virginia. And by the way, that's not a made-up example. That's right there on the list, okay? They're removed. Both will lose their vote. The most common name on this planet is Mohammed. People name them Mohammed. I have a list in just Columbus, Ohio alone, of dozens of guys named Mohammed. None of them have the same middle name, but they're accused of voting twice. Just, okay, your name's Mohammed? You've already voted because another guy named Mohammed voted. Doesn't matter if you have a different middle name, right? So now, it's so clearly, transparently racist purging of the voter rolls. And now we take this horrible racist purging of the voter rolls and make it into a very funny movie, okay? Because I want people to enjoy the movie. We have cartoons and Rosario playing Maria Hernandez, but it's also a very straight up documentary investigation because I want people to get it. Now, the other thing to realize is that we've got now the Justice Department has now been notified by the Congressional Black Caucus that they better open this investigation like right now and stop this thing in its tracks, because by exposing it, you know, when I put these lists up at gregpalast.com, you can look up your own name. You can save your vote.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, are the Department of Justice, or the President, are they asleep at the switch? Because it seems like there was an example of Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State in Kansas, I believe.
Yes.
You confronted him in the movie. Don't want to give it away.
Oh, there's so many cool parts
with the list.
Yeah.
And he just feigned ignorance and played dumb. I mean, it's right there. You know, investigated and found the list. Why, especially Democrats, you would think, why aren't their alarm bells off?
They're chasing, it's whack-a-mole. They're like, for example, in North Carolina, I spoke to a member of the NAACP who was also on their lawsuit against the state and in the state legislature. It was easier for them to take on things like voter ID, closing down early voting, all these issues that the courts ruled. They said North Carolina is removing black voters. The rules are set to remove black voters with almost surgical precision. But the this is a really complex story. I'm a professional investigator. I was a detective before I was an investigative reporter. And so I have skills and abilities to unpick all these things, and once I have it, I can show it to them. But they didn't understand that they were being conned by the Republicans. They were told, we're going after double voters. Well, no one's going to defend someone who votes twice and commits a felony crime, but no one ever saw the lists. If they asked them for the list, they were told you can't look at criminal investigation records. So even a state legislator, even a state official, is not allowed to look at the list till I got them.
Mm-hmm. But this also goes into the chasing a problem that might exist rather than one that does. Fox News has been railing about voter fraud for years, all the Republicans. So they are actively, cross-checking, but there's been no examples they could find of voter fraud.
I think we found there are 4 double voters found in the entire nation in the last 4 years. Out of, remember, about 1 billion votes, because we have multiple votes, about 1 billion votes are cast in any year. So out of 3-4 billion votes cast, they found 4 people that were dumb enough to vote twice. By the way, it's just a curiosity to know, they're all white Republicans. Mm-hmm. Everyone, the 4 actual real cheats. Mm-hmm. But what they've done is they're using the hysteria that there's literally 1 million double voters out there, which we have in the film. We actually have Fox News saying that there's millions of double voters. We have Donald Trump saying many, many double voters. We have this whole hysteria factory that's been created. They don't exist. There are almost none in America. People aren't going to risk 5 years of jail time to vote twice, except a couple of idiots. But they're using it to bleach the voter rolls whiter than white.
And you also go back to 2004, to 2008, to 2012. There's something else called caging.
Yes.
That's even borderline more deplorable. Can you kind of explain what that is and whether it's still going on?
Yes. Caging is something that Bobby Kennedy, my co-writer at Rolling Stone, and I discovered. And caging is a system whereby Republicans, we caught them sending letters to black voters and student voters. Like they send a letter to students black students who are away for the summer. They send to their college addresses, do not forward, right? So it goes back. And when those letters come back to the Republican National Committee, they say the voter doesn't exist, or it's a fake name or fake address, and they wipe out the voting rights of that voter. But that includes soldiers who are away in Iraq. So we literally we got their list because it was a brilliant accident. I had a friend who had a joke website called georgewbush.org, and some of the georgewbush.com people in Karl Rove's office sent us the caging list. Wow. So I mean, my friend who was brilliant didn't know what they were, and he said, "But these are confidential Republican Party documents." Now, normally I can't look at such a thing because it's against the law to look at confidential material sent to you by accident. By the way, with one exception, if it's evidence of a crime, and this is evidence of a crime. This is like Bobby Kennedy, who's a law professor, and my co-writer said, "You go to jail for this. You go to jail." This is a straight-up violation of the criminal aspects of the Voting Rights Act. See, the Supreme Court destroyed most of the civil protections in the Voting Rights Act, but they never took away the criminal protections. So that's why the Black Caucus is now saying, we want to take Greg Palast material from his movie and from Rolling Stone and hit these guys with a criminal investigation, because that they can do.